Hello YouTube! Today I want to talk to you about childhood. Now when I was a kid, I pretty much only read books. I read books all the time, no matter what I was doing. And so at surface level, I was sort of an unassuming child. But recently I was thinking about some of the things that I enjoyed doing outside of reading, and oh my god, I was evil! There are multiple instances of crazy plots that my tiny little child brain came up with that, looking back, were very bad. First, let's talk about Rollercoaster Tycoon. Rollercoaster Tycoon was one of my absolute favorite games. If you're not familiar with it, it's a theme park building sim game, and it was amazing. The premise of the game is to build a wonderful theme park that everyone enjoys and to hit your budgets and pay back your debts and all of these things and research new rides and, you know, have a grand old time. When one of my park attendees was a big old whiner, instead of fixing the thing that they didn't like about my park, lines for the bathroom or trash on the ground or admission price, instead of, you know, being a good park owner, taking this feedback and using it to build a better park, I would pick them up and drop them in the lake. I would take the people who came to my park, paid money to have a nice day, and I would kill them rather than take their constructive criticism. Pro tip, don't use this tactic in real life. The other thing that I would do that I was quite proud of as like a 7-year-old was I found out that you could dig holes in the ground. You could lower and raise the ground level. Rather than building a lake like a normal kid, I would build a pit of doom, I called them, and then the only way out of the pit of doom was via a roller coaster queue that cost $50. Generally, I would charge like $2 to $5 for park goers to ride my roller coaster, but no, if you wanted to get out of the pit of doom, you had to pay $50 and ride my roller coaster. Sometimes when I was feeling a little more giving, I didn't kill the whiners by putting them in the lake, I would just put them in the pit of doom. And of course, I'm sure everybody did this, when it started raining, umbrella prices spiked up to $100. Okay, now let's talk about Neopets. These aren't necessarily evil things, but more just weird. Neopets, again, for those of you who aren't familiar, is a giant microcosmic world with games and a stock market and everything you could possibly want in a simulated world, and it was amazing. It was my favorite thing on the internet when I was 11. But of course, instead of being a normal kid and playing games, I became obsessed with making lots of Neopoints, because having lots of money was not something that I had experienced yet at 11 in the real world, and I had found this simulated world where it was actually relatively easy to make lots of money. So there was this thing called the garage sale. There was like this igloo in the frozen world where you could go, and every 15 minutes or so it would get restocked with really expensive items that you could buy for really cheap. So I don't know how many people knew about this, probably a lot, because it went pretty quickly, but at any given time when I was on the internet, I had the garage sale page up, and I would constantly refresh it, and I had like a pretty good working knowledge of which items were more expensive than others, and so the second that that garage sale had been restocked, I would buy up as much stuff as I could, and I would go resell it. So for like a year, when I was 11, when normal kids were like on sports teams and doing normal kid things, I was buying and reselling digital goods. When I wasn't buying and reselling, I was taking advantage of the Referral Program. There was a link that you could get. I learned a lot of stuff that was very useful to me in my life now, because I still use referral programs all the time, but I learned how to do this in Neopets. So you could put a referral link in your shop, and then if people signed up to Neopets by using your referral link, you would get prizes. Well, I didn't have very many, I got all my friends to play Neopets, but that was like 10 people. And then after that, I didn't have any other people to refer. So I made hundreds of email addresses and re-signed up for Neopets hundreds of times through my own referral links, but the prizes were really only good up to about 10. At 10 referrals, you got a paintbrush, and paintbrushes were the best thing on Neopets, not because you ever really used them to paint your pets, but because you could sell them for lots of money to suckers who would use them to paint their pets. I would create an account, I'd refer 10 people from it, get my paintbrush, ditch it, make another one, do it again, lather, rinse, repeat, forever, intermixed with checking the garage sale constantly, and that's what I called fun when I was 11. So these are my stories. These are the evil things I did as a child. I'm really curious to know what kinds of evil things you did as a child, or if you guys were all perfect angels. Don't lie to me. Of course you weren't. Let me know in the comments below. Consider this your time to come clean and admit the horrible things that you did in your formative developmental years. Thanks for watching, guys. I will see you next time.